Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our channel, and I want to say thank you as always for being very supportive to this channel. And I want to request you to subscribe to our channel if you have not yet done so. And when you subscribe, please click the notification bell so that whenever we do another video like this, then YouTube will automatically notify you. Another thing that I want to request from you guys, kindly go and watch more of our videos and like them. The more you like our videos, the more the ratings go up, and that is how YouTube will recommend them to more viewers. And again, I'm humbled. Now, President William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua, while campaigning just prior to the last presidential elections, signed a number of treaties. They met Women League, and they made a number of promises telling them that, we will give you 50% of our cabinet. They met the church and they told them about the freedom of worship and everything. They met several groups in a bid to try and persuade them to vote for them so that they could have a win-win situation. And one of those groups that they met were the university dons, the lecturers. And under the umbrella Dons for William Samoei Ruto Charter, they met at his current home, and the university lecturers highlighted a number of things that they wanted William Ruto to perform and to undertake to them, and they gave Ruto their support, or rather they promised that they will support him in the just concluded elections. So one of the things during that meeting, ladies and gentlemen, as it was reported later, was that William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua promised that they were going to ensure that they pump in more money into the public universities, that they increased the salaries of the university dons. The whole thing was surrounding monetary discussion. And so William Ruto has already ascended to power. So most of the things that he promised these groups are being implemented. To the judiciary, you saw him swear in or presided over the swearing in of the appellate court judges that the previous regime had somehow gone slow to implement. To the police, William Ruto gave them an independent kitty, because apparently the money that was meant for operations of the police, I think, was falling under the office of the president, and William Ruto argued that this was denying them an opportunity of independence and autonomy. And to the church, you've seen several things happening. They are still friends even today. Rigathi Gachagua donated some money in some bag, something that has really left a lot of speculations in the country today. Just last week, William Ruto donated a personal car worth 6 million Kenya shillings to one of the bishops. So they have been trying to implement some of these things, even to the women, even though he didn't give 50% of the cabinet to the women, but there are a number of them. I think a third gender rule was executed there in the cabinet. So they have been trying to implement some of the few promises that they gave to these groups. But yesterday, one of the cabinet secretaries in the William Ruto administration caused a storm. While speaking at Dedan Kimathi University of Science and Technology, the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Ezekiel Machogu, caused a storm when he put the public universities, he gave them notice that sooner than soonest, the government will stop funding them and they will start generating. In fact, he told them that they should start thinking of generating their own money. I'm telling you, if you go to the Twitter handles of those who were reacting to these sentiments, they were really asking Mr. Machogu how serious he is. And some of them were asking whether Mr. Machogu has forgotten the definition of a public entity. Because a public university as entrenched in the constitution is being funded or must be funded by public funds. It is going to form the basis of our discussion, ladies and gentlemen, because it is something that has sparked a lot of debate and it cannot go unnoticed. The reason why very many people felt offended by this is because, number one, if you look at the economic situation currently, parents are undergoing a lot of difficulties. And you cannot let parents now, not any other time now, and tell them that they should now focus on educating their children in the university level. I remember Raila Odinga, while campaigning during the campaign, he said that he was going to offer free education from the basic level all the way to the university. And this will really put William Ruto and paint him in bad picture, because he took over power, and those who wanted to vote for Raila still maintain that there are a lot of things that they would have got if Raila had ascended to power. There was 6,000 money that was going to be given to to the jobless, free medical. In fact, he called it Baba Care. It's something that they feel they missed because Baba did not become the president. Free education. And now for Machogu to come and tell people that very soon they will stop funding the university education, I'm telling you, something is wrong with our cabinet secretaries, and people kept on wondering, is this a collective responsibility? Because in common practice, most of these decisions are passed in a cabinet meeting. And in reaction to this, the University Academic Staff Union, led by their, let me just refer kindly, if you allow me, led by their General Secretary, Mr. Onesmus Mutio, warned Mr. Machogu to desist from making what he termed as unilateral and public or unilateral and roadside policy declarations. He said that some of these matters are so important and delicate that you cannot just wake up and declare what you want to happen. That what should have happened under common practice, and it is a very wise thing to do, is that you call all the stakeholders. Changes in the academic sectors, and so in any other sector, whether it is the health center, any other sector that is pertinent to the running of the economy, cannot be undertaken by one person. I remember the other day, the Azimio One Kenya Alliance accused Mr. William Ruto of acting unilaterally and making decisions that will affect Kenyans. They cited things like GMO, and they said that in the previous administration, the policy that guides the GMO was that they barred the GMO. Kenya did not allow it. But when William Ruto ascended to power, without consultation, without bringing all the stakeholders together, he just decided to give it the green light. And there was a lot of debate around this. So Mr. Machogu is following into the footsteps of his master and telling the public universities that they must prepare themselves to start generating their own money. Among the people who aired their views was one Miguna. You know, ever since Miguna jetted into the country, he's been chiding Raila Odinga and the former president Uhuru Kenyatta. But on this, he disagreed with the William Ruto minister. He disagreed with this public officer. Under normal circumstances, it was very common to see Miguna praising and trying to defend ministers, these ministers that were appointed by William Samuel Ruto. But on this, he disagreed and told off Mr. Machogu that the meaning of a public institution, a public university, is that it is funded by public money. And I remember Rosalyn Akombe, that I've just spoken about a while ago, also tweeted and was saying that Kenya does not have money to finance public universities, yet it's got money to fund political parties. And Akombe really took issues with this, that our priorities are always misplaced. She thought, in her own considered opinion, that instead of funding political parties, then we should fund maybe the most important things like our universities and our education sector. And the other thing that came to mind, ladies and gentlemen, William Ruto promised an ease of doing things when it takes over power. The hustlers, like we've always said, several things were promised to the hustler. And I've repeated this, I don't know whether I should go there again. Lowering of the basic commodities, fuel, unga, cooking oil and all that. Instead of implementing some of these, instead they have skyrocketed, ladies and gentlemen. There is high taxation of our basic commodities. Now, to add salt to injury is to tell our parents that over and above all this taxation, over and above the soaring prices of basic commodities, then you are also slapping their face with another punishment, that your child, as needy and bright as she or he could be, is not gonna get money from the government. I mean, where are we really headed? Because things are worrying. Because if we can start interfering with the education sector, the next thing we are going to hear is the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Health telling us that parents should now consider buying medicine as they go to the hospital. I know this had been happening sometimes, or I don't know whether it is still happening. A few months ago, you could go to a public hospital and they tell you, they will prescribe for you medicine, but they will tell you we don't have it, go and buy it. If this is escalated further, then I'm telling you, you will be going and you will pay consultation for a public doctor or in a public hospital. You will buy gloves, you will buy everything. So Mr. Mashogu is seen to be setting a very bad precedent, and people called upon the president to shed light on this, because it starts like a trivial talk, then later you'll realize that they are actually implementing it. And the reason why this really brought a lot of fear to Kenyans is because everything now in the Ruto government is becoming expensive. Like I mentioned, the taxation. They can make good this threat and tell people that in the next few years, Kenyans will start educating themselves in the public education, public universities. Already, if you ask the parents, even the CBC itself, ladies and gentlemen, is too much for them. It's too much expensive. And if you remove the subsidies that is being paid in the university, the public universities, in other words, you are telling Kenyans that instead of telling their children to the university, then they will never take them to maybe tertiary colleges. But even the tertiary colleges that are public, some of these tertiary colleges will not be funding themselves. Where are we really headed to? And in my most of my analysis, I love pausing and just asking the Hustler Nation, is this really what you voted for? Do you feel duped? Unaona ni kana kwamba umedanganywa, hii ndio serikali ulipigia kura? Because Kenyans woke up very early in the morning, they lined up and they voted their leaders. Kenyans are paying taxes. But if you see what is happening vis-a-vis the campaigns and whatever we were being told, I realized that talk is very cheap. And most of the things that were being promised were a mere campaign gimmick. They were meant to ensure that we only voted our leaders in. The Mitumba thing, we were told they were not going to be removed in the market. Now they are being removed. In the university now, public universities, they are going to stop funding the universities. Bringing the high cost of living down, we have to wait for another 1 year. So if you look at some of these promises, ladies and gentlemen, you can easily conclude that the politicians are misusing the common mwananchi. And it is a call, because we always learn from our mistakes. Maybe next time, before we vote in our leaders, we should really check them further and evaluate them to see whether the promises that we are given are real, whether they can really be implemented. Because the excuses will always be there. When another administration comes in, it's easier to blame the previous administration so that they get away with some of these things. Another rallying call that Kenyans are giving to this government is that kindly benchmark and start implementing the promises instead of blame game, because blame game will not help the situation. William Ruto is now the president and he's got the sword, so we call upon him to ensure that he implements all the promises that he gave to Kenyans instead of giving these blame games. Let the cabinet secretaries have a meeting, and this meeting is always chaired by the president, so that before they come out and give us statements, especially regarding critical matters like that of education sector, let it be something that has been discussed thoroughly, evaluated and passed in a cabinet meeting, so that it is something that will better the life of Kenyans instead of making it's like putting a load on top of the already overburdened Kenyans, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't know whether I'm reading too much about this. I want to hear what you say about the Machogu statements in the comment section. Please tell me what you mean. I could be reading too much. Is Machogu right? Do you think the Kenyan Mwananchi is overburdened? Or do you think they should scrap henceforth funding the public institutions? That is my take, ladies and gentlemen.